Well, good morning, and every day we rise. It's a great day to be alive, and welcome to the Portsmouth Coffee Talk podcast. I'm James Slim Overton here with co-hosts Thomas the Colonel Chapman and Leah Drake Stitt. She'll be right back with us. And we have a special guest with us this morning. His name is Gerry McCants. And I will, he sent a bio and it's quite impressive. And I will read some of it, and the rest of it will come up during the conversation. But Mr. McCants holds a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology and Urban Studies from the Virginia Union University in Richmond and at Dartmouth
Absolutely.
College and Ivy League Research University in Hanover, New Hampshire. McCants completed a Minority Business Development Agency executive program at the college's Tuck School of Business. Furthermore, Mr. McCants received an Entrepreneurship Educators Program certification from the Babson College Symposium in Babson Park, Massachusetts. And I'd like to mention he's also a member of Omega Sapphire. I had to get that in, right? Right, guy?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I want to start off with him. For more than 30 years, he was a publisher and owner of Black Pages USA directories in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And I know you all remember these Black
Yeah,
Pages that
yeah,
we had here in Hampton Roads.
Yeah.
There was two of them. It was Black Pages USA and the Hampton Roads Black Pages, which uh, sort of it was a
Absolutely.
guide to
Yeah.
all the black businesses. Glenn Francis was the publisher of the other one, but it was a guide for black businesses if you wanted to uh, know about or be engaged with black groups or black individuals. And it was like a melting pot of all the different people in Virginia and North Carolina. And it was something where there's a lot of people when I was in real estate, and I did some ads in there. When I was in real estate, a lot of people would call and they were looking for certain businesses, and they wanted to be to deal with a black business, and this was the place to go
Right.
to find out who you could deal with. Now, Gary, you graduated from Virginia Union in 1982, I believe, and came to Virginia. Came to Portsmouth for the Hampton Roads area. And your first job
Yeah.
right out of high school was with the Historic Journal and Guide as the ads manager, I believe. So how was
Yeah.
that
I was
experience? That sort of led to the Black
Mhm.
Pages, and then that was just a process of going to where you are now. You are the president of McCants LLC, so in Greensboro,
Right.
North Carolina. So how was that experience coming from college, getting right into the business, and coming to an unfamiliar place? First time coming to Hampton
Yeah.
Roads.
Well, James, first of all, I'm happy to be on the show and talk to you and good friends that I know. But that experience at the Journal Guide was probably one of the most impactful experiences I had because I had several jobs between that, and I also was in the Marine Corps Reserve. So, working with the Journal and Guide, Brenda Andrews, the publisher there, was amazing. It gave me a chance to meet so many great people in Hampton Roads, business owners, professionals, ministers, you name it. I have so many relationships and so many mentors in that area. It was a significant experience being a part of the Journal and Guide and really being able to have my first introduction to networking and meeting so many different people. So it was an amazing experience and something I would always remember. I'm just happy that Ms. Andrews gave me that. She hired me. So that was a great experience.
So after that, how did you sort of transition into the Black Pages USA? I mean, was that something that presented itself to you, or something that you looked for, or something that was already in existence? How did that happen?
No, it presented itself to me. There was a publisher out of Richmond who wanted to expand in the Hampton Roads. And look, I was happy with Journal and Guide. I did not want to leave. I was enjoying myself. Had met a lot of great people, but he was very persistent about trying to recruit me to be a sales manager for his company. And we met at a networking function, and I saw some of the people he had on his team. I said, man, those folk are not going to work out. And he was like, what? I said, I don't think they good looking people, but I don't know if they're going to stick around with this. So I ended up leaving the Guide. Didn't want to leave, but I ended up leaving for an opportunity to be a part of something that I thought would certainly would, help our plight as African American people and Black people in Hampton Roads. So I decided to jump on and sell advertising on commission.
Yes, had to
Yeah,
make the.
what year was this that you started the Black Pages in Hampton Roads?
I started work with him, I think it was around 90, probably 92, 93, somewhere around that time frame. But it was a great experience, because what I did at that time was I sold advertising for a few months, and then we would publish the book, but then I worked a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing telemarketing in the evening.
Mhm.
And then I go back to sell advertising again. And James, Frank Owens, he's my sales manager.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And so, yeah. So we do that, and we just kind of go back and forth. And it was tough. I mean, it was a new kind of concept for many people. But the good thing about Hampton Roads, as I said before, you've got a lot of good people in that area who really believe in the emancipation of Black folk. And you've got, enclaves of organizations there that certainly support. If you've got a good idea on the concept, they're going to support you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to sit down with ministers and doctors and dentists and attorneys, and all these folk I had met through the Guide, and they were like, okay, man, let's give it a shot. And they mentored me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You couldn't beat that.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And how did you meet up with Glenn Francis?
That's a good question. I met Glenn when he had a print shop downtown in Portsmouth. Remember, Glenn had a print shop. That's when I met. And I tried to convince Glenn when I went out and started my own business, because I was selling for the guy of Richmond, David Walton, and I decided to go out on my own. And I tried to convince Glenn to join my company, and he decided not to do it, but Glenn's a good guy. I used to go to his print shop and do printing, and we served on the board together at the YMCA, Effingham YMCA.
Effingham Y? Mm-hmm.
We were on the board. Yeah, Effingham. We were on the board together. So, good relationship. Hadn't seen him in a while, but good relationship.
Yes. He's still out there. He's still out there doing his thing. So he's still around.
Good.
But this Key Westlew Simlet has something that I was thinking about as well. The person says, good morning and thanks for the history. We need Black media back in our community. We cannot trust mainstream media. I'm totally in agree with her.
That's actually Louis Bracy.
Look, Louis Bracy. I should have known. I'm in total agreement with Louis Bracy that we are in need of the services that you provided before with the Black Pages. In light of what's happening in our country today, we're going to need those resources so that we can know who can we contact in the various issues that come up in our lives. What are the chances of a Black Page coming back again in the Hampton Roads area.
You know, everything is for sale. Yeah. You know, I really would like to reintroduce the Black Pages back in Hampton Roads. I've been thinking about it. I've had some people ask me about it. Some close friends I know there, and they've been trying to convince me, McCants, you need to really come on back up here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's a conversation I need to have. I saw somebody on Facebook the other day. My birthday was the 22nd of January.
Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you. And I saw Ulysses Turner's name on it. He said, my good friend from Norfolk. And, you know, when people, you know, people like Ulysses, who was a mentor, you know, taught me a lot of stuff about business development and, you know, a little bit about politics as well. And so, you know, I would love to come back to Hampton Roads, and that's one of my boxes that I'm going to check off, because even though I like the town here in Greensboro, which we'll talk about that.
My granddaughter's town now.
Yeah, she's an auntie.
Yeah, she's
an Aggie.
Aggie, she's an Aggie.
Yeah.
You know, those Black Pages. Yeah, those Black Pages are really probably needed now, you know, for our younger entrepreneurs to bring more together, you know. I think back when we had it, a lot of the groups were together and they helped each other. And it's now everybody's going a lot of different ways, and we need that cohesiveness more now than ever. So hopefully, you know, something can happen in the future. But by you being in North Carolina now, involved in a lot of minority business ventures and on different boards for diversity, and been fighting, and it's sort of like the same fight is that you're having there in Greensboro, and that particular area is the same fight we're having here in Hampton Roads. And with the new administration, what do you see? I mean, where can we go from now? You know, with everything is sort of fighting back at what the progress we've been trying to make all these years.
We need to close ranks. You know, Black people, not just domestically in the United States, but abroad, we need to close ranks as a people and determine what is it that we want, you know, to be our legacy for our younger people. We've got to begin to identify organizations and businesses that we want to do business with, and we can circulate those dollars. Our problem is we bought into the myth of the American dream. I'm gonna be honest with you, and they duped us. You know, Black folk didn't have any rights.
That's right.
And so the whole notion about Donald Trump is doing exactly what his constituents are telling him to do.
Exactly.
And they don't care. And so we've got to begin to look inside and hit the reset button and determine how we're going to navigate these waters, but also at the same time build our own ecosystem where we can be independent and interdependent of each other. And that's the task I think we have at hand right now. All this other stuff about, you know, these executive orders he's rolling back. There was no DEI when I was coming through the Black Pages.
No DEI for us at all. That's for sure.
You know, DEI. It was the Fair Share Agreement with the NAACP. It was the Urban League, and it was all these small, and it was the elected officials, Black elected officials, particularly in Hampton Roads, that have some cohesiveness and collaboration that we were going to do X, Y, Z, and the business community and the churches who were the cornerstone in some of our communities. And we've got to get back to that. HBCUs. We've got a $1.7 trillion consumer spending power domestically just in the U.S. Okay. And if you look at the Southeast, you know, from Virginia, you know, Maryland on down to Florida, 55% of the Black population lives in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to be able to harness all of that in order to create the kind of opportunities we need. And we can do that. It's just going to take some leadership. It's going to take some collaboration. It's going to take some organization. It's going to take a plan to make sure that happens.
You are definitely right about that. And as you mentioned DEI, I think about what one of the newscasters said. A lot of Blacks will be laid off in government, but Blacks were not hired in government through DEI. They had to be better than the best in order to be hired in the government. And I listen to all these Republicans talking about DEI hires, but yet the same week they're talking about DEI hires, they're hiring all these incompetent people who are not qualified to hold the positions in which they're being hired. And one newscaster put it so nicely, said that while the Republicans are making all these issues about the DEI, they have hired someone who is described as the worst kind of DEI hire, a white, incompetent drunk to run our military.
Yeah.
That's a lot right there.
You're right, Leah. I always, my new quote now is, the hand is quicker than the eye.
Amen. That's right.
They are showing you one thing over here and doing something totally different over here.
They distract you so you don't see what they're
distractions
doing.
Distractions are a big part of what they're doing. And Colonel, I know you have some thoughts on that.
Well, I'm glad y'all framed it up and teed it up for me this morning. Good morning, everybody. Well, you know what? And what I think, and I'll give you this little monologue, and I'm gonna frame what I got to say. When they talk about DEI, it is a guise for white supremacy to make a comeback. It was always here, but to get a seat at the table.
Exactly.
Government jobs. Yes, they're going to fire right away any person, Black or brown or any color, and call you were a DEI hire. And so they can put in Bubba, who probably didn't even come in as a high school
graduate
diploma and take somebody that has a master's or PhD Black person's job and stick them in that job, hoping to deconstruct. They call it deconstruct, but when they say deconstruct the government, they mean ruin or either destroy the government. Because if you look at the billionaire class or the oligarchy, and for those folks that are out there on the other side, you can Google, because I know you didn't go to school. Those billionaire class, they're opening the doors, but him firing the 17 inspector generals so they can open up the treasury to steal what left, all the other money that's left in there. So when we talk about DEI, and without saying, yes, this is really an attack on affirmative action, but is a boost for white supremacy, you look at what they're doing in the government and what they're doing in spreading it, and they've got private companies across the country that are scared of the government, and they're saying, like Hitler would say, oh, you need to rat on anybody that you think is a DEI employee, because just like they said, you rat on the Jews back in the day, so you can exterminate them. And it says the same thing. We're going to exterminate every Black and brown person out of the government and out of society. So for those 9-10% of Black folks that voted for this dictator, and now you think you're surprised what you got, because now you're going to be eliminated from that job that kept you into the middle class. You deserve to be the first one out the door.
I think you're right.
Yes.
I think you're right, Colonel. I think the other thing is too, cannot tax people and overtax people and expect us to abide by all of your policies and your government rule. And that's a real problem. We've been paying taxes into a system and getting less than 3% to 4% of all return on all contracts, public contracts that are being awarded on the federal, state, and local level. And so that's a plantation. Nobody does that. That's just sharecropping. And so if we allow the people that we have elected, those people really work for the people. We got to flip this. You know, Donald Trump is coming in like he's some gangster and he's telling everybody what to do. He works for us. And so if you want to do that, we need to freeze all salaries and benefits of all those elected officials until we get it right. And that's the attitude.
Yeah, you're correct there. But that is something we can't do because they own the power, because the gang, like you say, the gangster is in charge. So what I'm getting back to, but if you work in the government, when you go to work this morning, you better, here's my advice, you better de-black your office. If you have
look, I can't do it.
I'm telling you, those, if you don't de-black, that means they are going to rat on you and you go to the front of the line. You're already going to at the front of the line to be out, but you need to de-black it. You take your signs down that I went to an HBCU school. I take my pictures down. You just need to de-black it because you don't want to make yourself a target yet. Because you got to pay bills.
I was going to be a runaway, brother off of that plantation. I'm not doing it. Yeah. And I think we got to get some courage here. I think the courage of all of the legacy of our plight in the world is courageous. I mean, this is live with technology and all this stuff. 1960, 1950, and
your internet is
now your internet is breaking up.
It's breaking up. Hold your thought.
Yeah,
and bring it back. Bring it back because it was a good thought. Bring it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll bring it back. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we our journey as Black people in this country and in the world, quite frankly, because it just didn't start after 1865. We have been courageous people.
Lost again.
Areas and obstacles, and we're going to have to use this legal system. I'm still frozen, but we're gonna have to use this legal system to overcome those odds. I'm not erasing my history.
Hey, Gary, can you hear me?
I don't care what billionaire it is. I don't care what president.
Your internet, Gary, your internet is going out, and it was a
Gary,
great statement.
Can you switch to your phone? Can you switch to your phone right quick? Because sometimes sometimes that helps. You get a stronger signal from the phone. Because it doesn't look like it's going to improve. So if you can switch to your phone, maybe we can get a better connection there. Because we don't want to miss what you're saying, brother.
Yes. But you know what? I got the thought that you're talking about, and that in your view to sacrifice yourself. But there's a lot of folks out here that cannot sacrifice because they're starting off their lives. They got mortgages, But we still have to organize. And you are so correct. You talk about going back to the days of the General Guide. My brother Michael used to carry the General Guide back in the early 70s. And so I missed that piece. And that was a great magazine. But Al Sharpton had and I'll paraphrase him, and he's having a big meeting to where we need to trying to mobilize Black economic power. And that's what we need to do, is to keep our money to ourselves, invest it in our own companies, and do business, take that those billions of dollars that we give to the Chinese, to the white folks, and to these businesses that don't care about us, or you go out and buy a Tesla with a man that running company that is a Nazi sympathizer out here in public, and we sort of perpetrate, or we're against our own views by taking our good hard-earned money and giving it to the people that don't like us. Now,
Right.
Trump, yeah, well, President Trump and the mob boss that he's in has started the war. And it is a war on, they call it immigration, but it is a war on all Black and brown people or people of color across this country. You never see them saying, oh, I'm going to get that European descent, blue-eyed, blonde-haired person that came over here from Germany or Sweden, that came over here on an education visa and has stayed and has graduated and been in this country 10 years, stayed and hadn't renewed the visa or nothing. You never hear them talk about that. Or they just love to put out, taking military planes, cuffing all these folks and parading them in front of the camera like, I got me a new group of slaves that I'm going to bring back to Mexico and Colombia. But they don't use the slave word.
The Colombian president showed him something, didn't he? He denied them the right to land.
But they came back.
They came back. They gave into him. They gave into Trump.
Didn't they go back and take them on their private plane, though, so as not to come back as criminals? I think that was what it was.
It's still, he gave up. He still gave up. He gave in to the dictator.
Let me try to exit.
Yes, he still gave in to the dictator. So we have to mobilize with our
Gerry,
economic.
yeah, turn the computer off. Okay.
Yeah. Stop going to these restaurants that if you walk in and you see nobody in there that look like you, that's not in a just not in the kitchen or in a representative, or they got a flag up there, a Trump flag, you walk out. Matter of fact, go to the store and buy some food and cook it. Keep your money and invest it into the market.
Well, you got to be selective about your purchasing right now. Be very selective about who you're doing business with.
Yes,
and we can do that. I mean, we can spend a percentage of our dollars. I used to have this conversation all the time with Anthony Epps in Portsmouth all the time.
Turn your volume up, Gerry, if you can. Can you turn your volume up on your phone?
Let me try something real quick. Have to go back to old school. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a lot better.
Much better.
Old school is always good. Nothing wrong with old school.
One of the things we got to do is be very selective and conscientious about how we're spending our dollars and who we're spending it with. And we need to find partners who believe in what we believe in. And as I was stating, Anthony Epps, who's locally in Portsmouth, we had these conversations all the time. Anthony, Alvin Keel, all these folk who understand how to invest back into our communities and build our own, because you got to have your own. These folk are not going to change. They haven't changed since I'm 6 decades in. They haven't changed. And so what are we waiting on? What are we waiting on for them to kiss the ring? That's not happening. And our legislative body we have to put people in these offices who understand how to navigate these waters. This is serious business. We can't have just people just sitting up there just talking about whatever they're talking about. They got to be to come in there and navigate the waters and our interests first. Whatever it is, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's business, we got to put our interests first, and we've got to have an economic platform to do that. You're not going to be able to survive anywhere in the world without one. And so I think we've got enough bright minds around the table to have that conversation. I think one thing, James, you and I were talking about earlier is you form a joint commission in Hampton Roads of people, experts, and legal advisors who can come up with a plan to navigate all of this stuff. We got brilliant people out there. You got brilliant institutions out there,
Yes.
and we just need to be able to say, look, we have to do this. We don't need nobody to tell us to do it. We don't need Donald Trump to tell us to do it, regardless of whatever executive order is out there. And if you can't participate, finance the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Give $15, $25, $30, whatever it is, to move the dream forward so we can do what we need to do. It's an easy proposition. I've been self-employed for over half of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to find the right people to come to the table, like we're doing now in this conversation, talking about things that we're interested in doing, and we can come up with those solutions and strategies to move our community forward. And we've got to do it. Somebody's got to be bold enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gary, you're so right on, and that's what we try to do here. Like
Right.
we were talking earlier, we had a show about regionalism,
Right.
and sometimes people have to get over their egos,
That's right.
and you can have your own thing in your own city, but it's going to take a collective effort. So that's you all in North Carolina avoided a catastrophe, not letting not letting your lieutenant governor become
Yes.
governor.
Mark
But you
Robinson.
also said that your legislators is Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at all the different groups that you're in, the NAACP, the NWBE, the Black Chamber of Commerce, and what you just said. How much of that, all those groups are working together for the common goal? Because it's strong. It's strength in numbers.
It is
And,
strength in
and, and
numbers.
that's where we often miss out. We have different groups doing different things. Everybody wants the credit, and we're just doing different things. They have a good heart, they have a good purpose, but together we could do a lot more.
Much more.
I just, case in point, on Martin Luther King Day, it's 5 different places to go to.
All,
Right.
When most of those,
all
and you go to one event, you get in your car, you rush to another one, when all of them could come together and have one
one
big
big event.
event that would could raise a lot of money for one thing. And that I never could understand, but that's the way it is right now. But
Well,
getting back to you, North Carolina, because we need to do that here in Hampton Roads. But talk about North Carolina.
Well, I'll say one thing: the beauty of having different thoughts and organizations, expands your horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you have to. When those folk on the other side of the aisle fight like hell for every dime they can get, and then they can come out of that fight, even though they might not like each other, and continue to do business.
That's
We got to
right.
do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I don't like every person that look like me. You know what I mean? But if we're going to be here to do business together, and we're going to work out, some solutions to solve our issues, I'll do that. So in North Carolina, I formed the Greensboro Business League, which is a business advocacy organization, back in 2018 with a gentleman named Earl Jones, who's the co-founder of the International Civil Rights Museum here. And the issue that we brought up, what I did was I was involved with the local branch in NAACP, and I kept telling the president, I said, man, we need to have a meeting of the minds, because so many public dollars are being awarded to white firms. They're not going to black companies. We're getting 2 and 3% of all this money. And it took me 2 years to convince them that we need to have this town hall with ministers and politicians and business people and community leaders. And we finally did it. And there was only one white person in that room. And the only reason why that person got in, and she was an elected official, because she called the mayor, and the mayor called the person who was the president and said, look, y'all having this meeting over there, and can she come in? I didn't want her to come in, but they let her in anyway. But at the end of the day, we were able to form the Greensboro Business League with the NAACP, community leaders, business leaders, so on and so forth. I was economic development chair at that time. And so those are the kind of things you have to do in order to move the needle and create opportunity. And yeah, there was, we were able to move the needle at the city level, at the county level, and at the school system level, because public dollars that we were investing in the tax system were being awarded to people that didn't look like us 95% of the time. And that's unacceptable. You can't be a part of a society and a part of a system and a government that takes all of your money
Gives you nothing.
and ships it to the other side of the community, and they get wealthy and they get a better quality of life, and they have better infrastructure, and they have better schools, and they have all these things that we keep fighting about in a side of Greensboro, East Greensboro, which is 70% Black. I mean, really? No, we can't do that. So we got to reset. We got to hit the reset button. And now with the NAACP statewide, I serve as the economic development chair statewide. So I'm looking at all of those things that we can do in the NAACP to leverage, opportunities for Black-owned firms. And I've got some other people, the National Policy Institute out of DC. They're going to be meeting this week down in Florida, and I've given them some suggestions that they need to utilize in order to put some things in place so we can have a complete plan and we can be able to move the ball forward. But you got to do those kind of things. It's nonstop. This thing is never ending, and a lot of our people are working other jobs, and they're not used to working with each other every day. So we got to put a narrative in place that will move people in a direction that we need them to move in, even though they may not be dealing with the same kind of things we're dealing with. At least they can participate, whether it's, as I say, they can invest in the process. They can give you intellectual capacity to help us move, or they can pick up one brick at a time. We don't need you to carry the whole load. Just pick up one brick at a time and help us move this ball forward. Because I'm gonna tell you something. 20 years from now, when these young folk who are on the computers and the cell phones, they're understanding what we were talking about with this whole civil rights movement 20 and 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Now they're going to be experiencing it, because all of those things that we fought for, now they're beginning to tear down the bricks. And so we've got to help them understand conceptually what you need to be doing in order to withstand some of that. Build within first.
Gary, you are so right. And and like you said, we have lived in a dream world, and thinking that we are part of what's taking place. And I'm thinking that this is bad. Trump's coming in is bad. However, in a way, it's good, because it is waking up a lot of people who've been sleeping, who thought that they had us simulated. And now they see that, hey, I'm not really a part of this whole piece, that this pie that they put here. I'm out of the crust of the pie. I'm not even in the pie at all. So it's helping them to realize that, hey, we need to wake up. We need to do just what you're doing in North Carolina. You know? But the thing about it, how did you get past the egos? That's the problem that we have, of the egos of the individuals. Each one would like to be the one who is in charge.
Well, doing the Black pages for well over 30 years, you're going to deal with all kind of egos every day. But so that was my training ground. Exactly. Look, the best thing I've done in my life, that gave me the best orientation to do what I'm doing now, because I dealt with Black companies every day. It wasn't at homecoming. It wasn't at the church. It wasn't at the family union. It was every day, every single day, that we had to deal with African-American Black-owned companies in all of these markets up and down the Southeast. And quite frankly, that was a great training experience, because you're dealing with different egos. You got to negotiate with people that may not always get on board with the Black pages or whatever it is, but at least you are working with people that you want to work with every day, and you don't have to be afraid to do what you're doing. We're in a society where we always got to look over our shoulder.
Yes.
There's some kind of ism that we got to deal with. Whether it's discrimination, racism, whatever it is, we always dealing with something. And folks, at some point in time, we got to get away. And so to do what we're doing, and North Carolina is no different from Virginia. We got plenty of issues that we're dealing with, but at least here with the era of civil rights and the civil rights movement here, the museum. So sometimes we can come together and have a simple conversation about what makes sense. Why do we need to have contracts being awarded to Black-owned companies? There's nothing wrong with that conversation. If that was on the other side of the fence, guess what? They'll be doing what Donald Trump is doing. They'll be trying to cancel everything that you have worked hard for to get an advantage. And so we look, folks, this is a fight. And if you're not prepared for a fight, as I say, stand on the sideline and finance the ones who are.
Yes.
Because we got to get ready for this.
Well, you have a good point there, but they have gone through the courts and they understand this. Is they've gone to the courts and says you can't set aside or not supposed to set aside money for people of color because they don't want to discriminate against the white male across this country. So, and then on the flip side, we talk about on the legislation, how do you win elections across, especially for Democrats, if you can't even say when somebody comes up and talks about I'm anti-affirmative action or I'm against DEI, you can't even call that person a racist. You can't even talk about, you can't even call the mob boss a dictator himself. You can't use those words. You can't talk to the elected. And right now, Democratic Party's talking about I've got to go back and win the white race or the white middle class, white working middle class. Man, it's crazy because one, we talk too high and out fluting. We don't talk at the 6th grade level that he does, and that's what he won about. But we have to go back and not be afraid to tell the truth. And you talk about North Carolina, you still have a struggle there because you win it. You got rid of what Snoop Dogg says, who now he is one of those jigaboos that he, when he talked about if you voted for Trump the first time you was old jigaboo, but now he's jigabooing at his inauguration. So
he got paid.
He got paid.
Yeah.
Got paid. But you have a Supreme Court, Democratic elected Supreme Court justice was freely elected. And you can't even sit them because they're trying to run the clock out on that young lady. For one.
Well, we never had.
Here's the last piece. I want you to. So you can win a statewide race for the governorship and most of the up and down. But you know what? In 2 years, you got Tom Tillis, your senator, who has done nothing for you, who is a racist himself. Why can't y'all get y'all together and put a spotlight on his head and knock him off?
Well, I think. Well, you're a former military guy, I think.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to move quietly. You don't have to give up all your plans in order to be successful. And I think you can have an inside-outside approach. Don't tell everybody what you're trying to do. Keep that to yourself quietly. Yeah. But there are some things that we have to do publicly that make sense. And, whether I like Tom Tillis or not, or whether I like Phil Berger or not, or whether I like any of those folk or not, I can still navigate the waters in a way that's going to provide the kind of resources for my people. And that's where I'm focused on. I'm not worried about all the other stuff because I'm just like everybody on this call. We only got we got time on the clock right now.
That's it.
And so we got to do whatever we have to do within this time that we have to have some impact on what's going on. And that's what our ancestors and our lineage has done. They set the stage for what's going on right now. You think they had any easier situations than we're having right now? I mean, they were worse.
Exactly.
They were worse.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So the clock been turned back on black folk ever since we stepped on we were drugged on this ground. We were kidnapped and put on this ground. And so there's nothing different from what's going on right now. So we got to bring the bright minds together who can figure this out, the experts who can figure it out, and we will figure it out. We haven't survived this long without figuring it out. And so, those are my thoughts right now without giving away the farm, as some people would say. You don't have to tell them everything. Just tell them just enough. And
tell them just
keep
enough.
The bellies full. Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, and what another way to say that is operational security.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But for those who are not informed, the people that sat on the sideline that don't vote, and I said they gave away their votes and they deserve everything they're going to get. We have to mobilize those people, and you have to put a target on the upcoming elections, because elections have consequences. And y'all down there in Carolina are so gerrymandered, you can lose you're gerrymandered. They've gotten set back. They own everything down there, even though they don't have the population to support it. We come out winning statewide elections and knock them off one at a time.
But one of the good things, Colonel, is I'm originally from South Carolina, Columbia.
Oh yeah,
so you understand where I'm going. I went to school in Virginia, the Confederate capital of the South.
How about that?
And now, I'm back I'm in North Carolina, which has its own issues. 1898, Wilmington, North Carolina, the history about that, burning down running black folk out of town.
That's right.
Look, our legacy speaks for itself. I tell people, and you have to find somebody who can deliver the message to those people who are sitting on the sideline. I may not be to deliver that message, but you know what? I can craft a narrative and give it to that person who can, and they may be to convince some of those folk on the sideline to come on board. And that's always been part of our history. Everybody didn't move at the same time.
You don't always have to be the spokesperson.
Exactly.
You come up with the plan. You come up with the plan, and you put the person in place who can do the job.
They see me coming with a necktie on and a crisp shirt. They're like, man, this guy right here, what are he going to tell me? But it is what it is. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with. So I think we can make significant impact. Even more now that we're even having this conversation makes a lot of sense. And it may energize some of your listeners that, you know what, maybe I need to rethink what I'm doing right now. Maybe I need to rethink what I'm doing. And maybe I need to put more investment into the HBCUs.
Exactly.
Maybe I need to put more investment into community centers. Maybe I need to, take over my schools again. We can't just sit on the sideline and do nothing. That's unacceptable.
And as you said that, Gerry, and as you said that, Gerry, as I said, it seems like it's the worst thing in the world. I think it's going to help our HBCUs with what's taking place now. It's going to help because our kids are not going to get into the PWIs anymore. They don't have quotas to meet. So therefore, in a way, it's going to be to our benefit if we deal with it the correct way. Yeah. We have to make sure we're prepared to handle it when it does take place. So
exactly.
Well, Leah, I'm gonna tell you, the way you articulate that is not that we were getting into PWIs by quotas, because we were well qualified. But
Oh,
we need to
definitely so.
take our talent and send them to HBCU schools
Exactly.
and block out those other ones.
Yeah,
And,
anytime,
yeah,
you know, I tell people, when you can go into the heart of the ghetto
yeah,
and the Black community and recruit the best athletes in the world
Exactly.
out of the ghetto, you can do the same thing with all these intellectuals,
yes,
all these
That is
brilliant minds. It's the same folk.
yeah,
Same
It's the
folk.
same folk.
Same folk.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Hey, Gary,
yeah.
you're talking about making an impact. I see that you are on an entrepreneurship and e-business advisory committee at
Yep.
North Carolina A&T.
Yeah,
So
that was,
I guess you get a chance to interact with some of those students a lot. So what, and they are our future, and that's who we're going to have to depend on in the future. How do you keep them motivated and make sure that they stay on track with what's going on and not get distracted by all these crazy things that are going on?
yeah, that was a committee I was involved in when I first came to Greensboro back in the early 2000s. But one of the things I did with A&T as well is I was able to recruit interns from A&T, like Hampton University and Norfolk and Johnson C. Smith, Bennett College. We were able to recruit Benedict College. We were able to recruit interns and give them the kind of sort of orientation they needed in order to be independent and self-sufficient. And so when you're talking to students like that, and I see a lot of them on Facebook and LinkedIn and some of these social media platforms, and we still talk to each other. And so I think you got to get those students where they are. You got to be involved with the process. And then the fraternity as well. We're always working with young people and students and that kind of thing. And the sororities are doing the same thing. So, as I told somebody the other day, if I don't care if you're in the Lynx or the Boule or whatever you're in, you need to have a strategy to get to our people so we can have the kind of resources and impact we need to make with our people, because that's all we got. And if we can't help our people, who else are we going to help? What else can we do? That's our saving grace.
That's
and
true.
so,
Indeed.
you know what I mean? So yeah, A&T. And I know I'm in the community
And
of
that
Aggie
behold
Pride.
green and gold territory. You're in Spartan
Yeah,
land.
green and gold. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, they understand two things. When they finish their school, they got to find somewhere to go.
Amen. That's right. That's right. That is it.
You know what I mean? And they need a reference from somebody, or somebody
Exactly.
needs to endorse them for what they need to do, or they may need some funding for something. So we all tied in this together.
We
Yeah,
are.
just
We
like
are.
just like you came from Union and went straight to the Journal and Guide.
Yeah.
That opportunity was
Yeah.
right there,
Absolutely.
but it might be a little harder now, for some of them.
Yeah, it's the world of technology. As I tell people, don't get too stuck on AI and all this stuff,
Yes.
because that's
Yes.
another opportunity to try to erase history.
Exactly.
And then once you forget history, you're going to repeat it, like what's
You're
happening right now. Yeah.
Okay, we getting close to the end, and before it might be some other closing comments. But I wanted to say this: it's a group of men that get together at the Printed Word bookstore,
Okay.
and every so often, and we read books that's been it's we read books and then we get together and discuss them. And I'm gonna start filming our discussions so people can know how important it is just to read, at
Right.
any age. And the first book we did was Miseducation of the
Education of
Negro
the
by Carter
Negro.
Woodson.
Carter
And right
Woodson.
now we're reading. And no, it's not about me, but this is everybody knows the story of Huckleberry Finn. And you
Yes.
remember the black
Yeah.
guy in there called Jim?
Yes.
So this is the Huckleberry Finn story from Jim's eyes. And of
Okay.
course, his name is really giving him respect of James and not
James.
just you. So make sure you
I need to get
you
that
know,
book.
yeah, come together and do some reading and it could be fiction or just informing
Just
yourself of
read.
what's
Just
going
read.
on. So,
Mm-hmm.
and just
Just
read
read.
and make sure you encourage the younger people to read. Not everything is on social media. Sometimes you have to stimulate your mind by just getting with a book in a quiet place and
Mm-hmm.
reading. You know.
Yeah, there was a bookstore in Norfolk, Self-Improvement Educational Center, when Brother
Yes.
George,
Yes.
when he
Yeah.
was living. I used to, man, that was like a second home sometime for me, going in
It
there,
was a
and
great place.
it was a great place.
It was a
Yeah,
great place.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Gary, I know you can agree when you got to Union, how your mind was opened up to all the contributions that we made that we didn't get before we got there. You know,
Virginia, yeah,
so
Virginia, Virginia Union
so
saved my
it's,
life.
yeah,
You were in an ecosystem there with everybody that looked like you were running that school.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
All the professors, most of them were black. The leadership was black. All the people you dealt with were African American black. And at that time, Richmond was 60% black. And
mhm,
so a lot of the leaders, political leaders and business leaders, attended the basketball games.
Mm-hmm.
So
mhm.
you had a chance to interact with them and understand, some of the plight that they were dealing with as well during that time. So perfect location, perfect
Mm-hmm.
place for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since you mentioned that, condolences goes out to the family of Henry Marsh, who was
Absolutely.
state senator, and he passed away this week.
Mm-hmm.
Graduate of Virginia Union and a state
Absolutely.
senator in the state senate for years and years, and
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
attorney in the city of Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
So
And was a
he was
and was a
91 years
mayor.
old. He was
With the
Was a
mayor.
91 years
mayor.
old.
Yep.
Yeah, he was
Mayor.
He
mayor
was
as well.
Uh-huh.
So
he,
yeah,
he was mayor during the Croson versus City of Richmond lawsuit that was filed that
yeah,
created the whole situation behind affirmative action.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, you look up Croson, Croson, versus the City of Richmond. Henry Marsh at that time wanted black companies to receive 30% plus more of those public contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look it up.
yeah. And that's the history
Look,
people should know.
yeah,
Henry
Mm-hmm.
Marsh.
exactly.
He will be missed.
Yeah.
Okay, any closing comments from the co-host?
Well,
Uh,
Gary, all I can say, I'm just so happy to see you again. It's been a long time since I last saw
yeah.
you.
Well, you
And
hadn't changed much. You still look the same.
thank you so very much. I appreciate that. And Gary,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, was it around 2010 when we saw the last Black Pages? Was it around 2010?
I don't know what edition. What do you have in your hand,
What edition do you have,
That
James?
James?
that's 2008, 2009.
So I think 2010
It
was when the
it may have
last
been
one
2010.
came out.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Gary, I'm just going to ask you, please. It is time. We need it back
Okay.
again. We need the
All
Black
right.
Pages back again. We need to know how we can support each other in our community. We need to get back to that principle of Kwanzaa, of cooperative economics and,
Absolutely.
and responsibility. So it's important now, in light of what we're going through now, we need something such as the Black Pages in our communities. So, Gary, I just want to thank you for everything you've done, everything you've been involved
Thank
in
you.
the movement of our people, and all the wonderful works you've done. And I hope to see you again soon. And thank you for coming on Portsmouth Coffee Talk.
Thank you so much, Leah. Looking forward to it. Now I'll take that as a call to action.
A call to action. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Colonel?
Yes, and thank you for coming on and spending your time with us and giving your insights. These are some dark days in our country,
Right.
and I'm hoping that we've survived it, because as what we've seen in the first week, our democracy is teetering, and it's probably won't. It's in a death spiral.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And these young folks out here don't understand, and they're getting a piece of it. And when they're waking up and going to work today, especially if they have a federal, state job, or even in some of these companies, and saying they're getting their pink slips and they're wondering why. And they're saying, well, you're a little too dark to be in my company now, or you're too dark to be in our government because you were a DEI, you graduated from a DEI school, or you are DEI a hire, or you're a fraternity and you don't represent us the way it should be. And so,
right.
Yes, so you're against everything. So we just have to circle the wagons and be like other nationalities out here. And that
you mean the ones that copied our playbook?
Exactly.
Playbook.
Exactly.
Yes. But they stuck together.
Because they did.
They stick together.
Yeah.
We first and try to do it all ourselves, but now we're being picked off one by one, and so
there are some companies out there who are fighting against this whole Trump wave. So everybody's not on board with what he's saying. The media captures only that much of what people are really thinking.
Right.
So we got to be careful.
Yes. And you talk about the media, you have to filter what you look at, X,
absolutely,
Twitter, and Untruth Social. Those are three things that you shouldn't even look at now. And then you go back to and look at, you have to refer like Fox is saying that's state-run TV. Basically, it's state-run TV. It's Russian TV now. And so, yes.
Historically, when has the media ever highlighted us in any positive light other than we shot and killed somebody? The black media is the only one that's portrayed us in a positive image.
Yes.
So we gotta cleanse our minds too, in terms of what we think is the way of the world, and that's not the way of the world. They've always portrayed us in a negative light.
And that's why I say you have to cleanse our minds and look at what we listen to, how we get our news. We just need a way of going, because these are the dark times. You may not survive. We may not survive. And it's not looking good. And you have to be careful, especially now, because if you, like you talk about me being in the military, before I get in my car, I do a combat check, meaning I make sure all the lights work, all the brake lights work and everything, because I may lose my life by driving while black because of a $5 light bulb. That's how dangerous it is out there today. They ever said for Bubba stop me and to take me out just because of who I look like, and so I'll rest my case there before I go down this other rabbit hole.
I'd like to give a shout out to the Mary Red Nelson Panther Nation Alumni Show, who is also streaming live here. I made sure I streamed them today because we have a Panther on today. So shout out to those that are watching on the Mary Red Panther Nation Alumni Show. All right, Gary, thanks a lot. We appreciate you. I love it. Shout out.
Thank you, James.
All right, thank you,
Colonel.
And thanks everybody
so
for watching. And please remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and share this show today. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care.
Be our guest on the Portsmouth